warm welcome to you. You're listening to the Music Business Buddy with me, Johnny Amos, podcasting out of Birmingham in England. I'm the author of the book, The Music Business for Music Creators, available in hardback, paperback and ebook format. I'm also a music creator with a variety of credits. I'm a consultant, an artist manager and a senior lecturer in both music business and music creation. Wherever you are and whatever you do, consider yourself welcome to this podcast and to a part of the community around it. I'm here to try and educate and inspire music creators from all over the world in their quest to achieving their goals by gaining a greater understanding of the business of music. Okay, so today we are talking AI tools, and I have an absolutely fantastic lady joining me by the name of Annemarie Gaillard from DAACI. That's DAACI. DAACI. So if you've never heard of DAACI before, they are a technology, information and media company that are set to power music creativity for the next generation of composers and content creators. So they create next generation smart and AI creative music tools, and they do it in a very ethically sound fashion. They say our series of patented technologies empower music makers to meet the rapidly growing demand for personalized music. Our technologies encompass tools that supercharge the creative process, dynamically composing new music in real time, and smart editing systems that seamlessly adapt existing tracks. Built by a world-class team of musicians and composers, DAACI's technology is based on over 30 years of research, incorporating a growing portfolio of 70 granted patents and supported by partnerships with the UKRI Centre for Doctoral Training in Artificial Intelligence and Music at Queen Mary University of London and the innovative Abbey Road Red Incubator. DAACI is the go-to solution for creators who make and use music. So they build a set of tools for music creators and also for those that work on an editorial level in film and TV that wish to use music. What do? Well, they've created a bunch of different things that save a lot of people a lot of time, and they do it in a very, very ethically sound fashion. So Annemarie is a fantastic advocate for what they are all about. So I'm going to hand over to the interview. I hope that you enjoy what you're about to hear. Annemarie, welcome to the Music Business Buddy. It's good to have you here. Thank you for joining me. How are you?
I'm very well, Johnny. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me onto the show.
Oh no, the pleasure is mine. It's really I'm excited to talk to you. Annemarie, I've got to say this to begin with. I must start by just acknowledging DAACI's ethical approach, right, to training for their product line. How important is that value in the company's kind of message and mission, etc.?
Okay, so first of all, I think really important to say what DAACI is not. So we are not a deep learning mechanism training on data sets. We are not ingesting, when it comes to the music industry in particular, other people's lives work into a system where people aren't getting compensated, where they haven't given consent. That's not the sort of system that we have. So we haven't trained an AI. We have taught an AI a system based on the principles of music. So musicology, music theory, and music research. Basically the building blocks of what music is. And it's a very different approach. We say it is ethical AI. And of course, it's a value that is it's the beating heart of everything that we do. We are a team of musicians, artists, composers. We always want to make sure that artists are protected with this technology, especially as it evolves and emerges. And we're just basically making tools that enhance and amplify the creative process, but never replace artists. We also, our system, the unique part of our system as well is that our technology ensures full traceability of all the musical elements. So making sure that, we can trace from input right through to output. And this means that it is a transparent attribution system and has an ethical framework for fair royalty distribution for rights holders. So again, this is very unique and a very different approach. I think we always have to think about, what makes music? How do we make music? And I think we, as humans, we write from a very human place, from our soul, from our life experiences, what times when we've been happy, times when we've been sad. I don't believe any tech can ever or should ever replace that. But I think AI done in the right way, in the ethical way, can just help us get to places a bit faster, speed up some of the parts of the composition process. And that kind of makes room then for the parts that we actually really enjoy and we want to spend more time on.
Yeah, brilliant answer. Yeah, I mean, that is absolutely spot on. And I think the time saving aspect there is one of the crucial things. I think in one of the things that I've noticed in recent years, Annemarie, is a problem amongst many younger music creators that procrastinate quite a lot and don't finish projects. And it might be maybe because they've got an abundance of tools at their disposal, etc. But sometimes that can kind of slow down the sort of basic cognition of creating music. So when you've got a kind of a co-pilot with you, that can speed things up a little bit. It's still on the creator to go, do I want to use that idea over there? But it's just, it can only help the process in many ways.
I agree. Like I said, if of course there are tech firms, companies out there that are not doing this in the right way, and rightly so. The music industry has gone, hold on a wee second, this is without our permission, we're not getting compensated, and I think it's important that we don't allow that approach to happen. But like I said, done in the right way, I mean, these tools are so effective. Productivity, efficiency rises. It's kind of just like having another color in your paint box, in your palette, and maybe a new paintbrush to work with. You are still in the driving seat. It's still your creative ideas. As you said, Johnny, it's just helping you get there a little bit faster. And also, sometimes I think as artists, we can get stuck in creative ruts or loops. It happens to the best of us for whatever reason. And sometimes you just need a bit of inspiration. And I think these tools can kind of just help generate, get the brain going a bit and, generate some new ideas. Certainly that's what we're doing with our tools at DAACI. So, and there are other tools out there that are doing similar things. So I think, done in the right way, these are powerful tools that are there just to kind of co-pilot with us.
Yeah, good. But I said DAACI earlier. It's DAACI, right?
DAACI, I know.
DAACI.
Listen, we get all sorts, but
so
it's
sorry.
DAACI, don't worry.
DAACI. God. Apologies.
Not at all.
I'll remember that now. I shall not make that mistake again.
DAACI.
DAACI, right. So, well, let's talk about some of the tools there, because you got a really exciting product line. So correct me if I've got any of this wrong, Annemarie, right? So adaptive is built to be a tool to be used by music users on an editorial level, and generative is designed as a co-pilot for music creators. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I would say that they're both co-pilots just for different purposes. So the adaptive side is basically very clever editing tools of pre-existing licensed music. So as a platform, it enables sort of effortless custom music edits. So adaptive is basically just very clever editing of pre-existing licensed music. So it enables really, effortless custom music edits and seamless video syncs as well. And we license that tech on a B2B level. The generative side is just basically clever tools for music creators who, like I said before, they're to assist and amplify their creative journey. Now, very recently, and this might be a bit of a shameless plug, so do feel free to edit it out. But it's been very exciting for us at the moment, Johnny, because we, on the generative side of things, we just completed a year-long Innovate UK grant, and that was with BIM University and Lewis Silkin LLP. And through that grant and also recent investment, it's kind of propelled our tech stack on the generative side towards something we were sort of trying to get to anyhow, but we were sort of going perhaps at a bit of a slower pace. Yes, it's propelled us forward to the launch in beta of a creator app for music. So putting all of the DAACI smarts and the DAACI brain into one user-friendly mobile phone app. We've just launched that into beta. It's incredibly exciting. It is very, very clever technology. We are looking for people to come and try it out, give us feedback. Our doors are always open. We love to hear from the music and creator community. If anybody fancies giving it a go, please do.
Very good. Okay, so I could drop a link to that in the description of this episode.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's called Whistle, which WISL, which stands for What It Sounds Like. And there's a link I'll give you, Johnny. People can click on it, download it in test flight. It's on iOS 17 and above only at the moment. We will build an Android version, we promise. But we do need feedback. So it'd be fabulous if people could give it a go and give us some feedback.
Brilliant. Okay, I'll consider it done. Okay, well, that's a really, really cool, exciting thing for people to engage with. So On the adaptive side, so is it that, let's see if I've got this right. So let's imagine you're a music supervisor or TV producer. You're in a spot where you go, right, we've got this piece of music, this song, this recording over here. We want to try and make it fit to this particular scene that we're editing. And sometimes that editing process, even if you've got the skills and the software to do it, it can be quite time consuming. So is adaptive used for people in that situation to save them time?
Absolutely. That's exactly what it does. And of course, quite a lot of jobs come in on a Friday afternoon, 3 p.m, need to be out the door by 5, exactly. It just speeds up the editing process. But it makes, it's such a clever system. It really makes sure to keep the piece, the composition completely intact. So it takes into consideration things like the upbeat, the anacrusis, the beat before the bar. Everything makes musical sense. Anything we do at DAACI has to make musical sense because, like I said, we're musicians, so why would we create something that doesn't? So it's hugely powerful, and it means that you can, at mouse clicks, do a brilliant edit of a piece to fit your images or your video.
Wow.
Or so that technology is really, really exciting. I work more on the generative side of our tech, so I've been very involved in we launched a plugin last year, Natural Drums. I was very involved in kind of getting that from closed beta into open beta and then out the door into commercial product. So it's really interesting to see that journey in a startup of getting a product out into the world. You kind of, as a team, you really go through something. And like I said, that's we will be releasing more plugins in the future, but everything, all the smarts of the DAACI brain, we've now put into this app all in one place. So it's exciting to see where it's got to and where it's going to get to and how people will use it. I think as well, what's exciting for me with the app is that, anybody can approach this app. So whether you're new to music or whether you're a pro, you'll just use it in different ways, just like you would any tool or, So I think it's a great place for people to start. But as a pro, you might want to capture your ideas on the go and then later on put it into your DAW and do a bit more sort of granular mixing, editing, creating, etc.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. That's just reminded me. I remember a few years ago, I was on the Gadget Show, on Channel 5, and I had to do a product test for.
Love that.
It was like it was really good fun, and they came to the studio and we did, and they said the whole question was, can this iPad Pro replace your MacBook Pro, right? Okay. And the answer was, well, no, but it can coexist. And the point being that, there was, it does this and this and this over here, and you squiggle this here with XY thing, and it gives you this idea. I'd love to get the WAV of that and put it into Ableton and do whatever with it, And so that was kind of the answer. Do you think this is similar? Do you think there's a kind of hybrid mentality there whereby, not everything has to be done under the roof of one door, and pieces of it can be from that sampler over there or from this over here and from that, from that app over there? Because, to do that, you'd have to be able to, export high resolution WAVs and all that kind of stuff. Does the app cater for that kind of thing?
It will do. So we've got a version in beta out now. It's going to be iterated on as we go. We plan to launch into the App Store over the summer, and there'll be many more features we'll be adding. But absolutely, that is the plan because, I think, having worked with all of the BIM students on the grant, who were absolutely fantastic, by the way, a lot of them, when we did sort of focus groups, workshops, and we sort of introduced the idea of the app to them, what its potential would be, a lot of their feedback was, this is great. I'm on the go. I want to get my musical idea down. I want to try stuff out. And then I can sort of close that, come back to it when I'm ready, or when I'm back at home, or when I'm not on holiday, or whatever it is. So we've really listened to that, and of course that's what people on the more sort of pro side of music making are going to want. They'll want to be able to put it into their own DAW and then have more detailed control over what they're doing. But I don't see why, as you say, all of these tools can exist. I just think use any tools that help you get that musical idea out into the world, whatever it takes. So absolutely, I think all of these tools can coexist and work together.
Yeah, totally. That's really, really exciting. Okay. Annemarie, I'm interested to hear a bit about your background as to kind of what led you into the createch world, right? You are you're a composer, you know a lot about music, and the voice and all sorts of. So what kind of led you into this world?
Well, Johnny, how long have you got? It's a let's just say a colourful story, Johnny. My career pathway. Okay, so I started off as a small child playing the piano, singing, playing the boron, or some people pronounce it byron, which is an Irish drum.
Oh, right. Yeah,
I
like
went.
the hand drum.
Yeah, it kind of sits on your
Yeah.
knee, and you sort of,
Oh, yeah.
you've got your.
I've always been intrigued as to how they're, because it's like double
Yeah.
hand thing. Yeah,
I'll,
yeah.
I'll give you a few lessons, Johnny. You'll love it.
Okay,
It's
yeah,
brilliant.
I've always been intrigued by that. Sorry, carry on.
It's
Sorry.
a brilliant instrument. So I then went to Cheetham School of Music up in Manchester, which is like a classical music conservatoire for young people. I was very lucky to get accepted into there, and I went and did my A levels there. But of course, it is round the clock music. So I went there as a classical singer, second study pianist. It was incredible as an experience. I mean, moving to Manchester at the age of 17 and being in a building that looked like Hogwarts, as a wee girl from Northern Ireland, it was like, where am I? So that was amazing. All my friends were going to music college after that, coming down to London and going to, the Academy, Guildhall, Royal College, etc. I didn't want to be a classical singer. I decided and said I wanted to audition for drama school. So I auditioned for drama school down here in London, and I ended up going there for 3 years. And then I basically worked as an actor for 10 years. And, working as an actor involves working as an actor, but also not working as an actor. So, the highs are high and the lows are low. But during, in between all the acting jobs, I would take on all different types of work. So call centres, waitressing, I worked as a PT. But one job in particular that I took on that kind of, changed everything for me was I started to work in a community centre in East London teaching drama. And it was teaching drama to adults, and quite a few of them had come from very difficult backgrounds, things like, rehabilitating, coming out of prison, for example, coming back into the community and using creative means to express themselves and collaborate and be part of the community. I really started to see, again, I think maybe having been in the acting industry for such a while and feeling maybe a bit jaded, I really sort of remembered why people do drama in the first place, or anything creative. It's the sheer joy of making stuff with other people. Waiting in the wings before the show goes up, coming down afterwards and you're buzzing, playing a character that's very different from you. And I could see the sheer joy it was bringing. So I sort of went home and I Googled, drama as therapy, and lo and behold, creative arts psychotherapy and using creative means in therapy is a career. So I went and I retrained as a drama therapist, so creative arts psychotherapist. I then worked for a number of years in places like the Priory Hospital and schools in East London. I also did a lot of work with actors, so running sessions, wellbeing sessions alongside rehearsal processes. Really interesting stuff there.
Wow.
And it was kind of during the pandemic. I told you the story was long, Johnny. Sorry, I'm getting there.
No, it's fascinating.
During the pandemic, it was very difficult work, very, very difficult work. So I had the opportunity to do a bit of part-time work, which then led to full-time work with a startup who were sort of starting programs around the world for students, well, not just students, but for people to travel and experience the world in these incredible cities, but also do an internship in several different industries. So I was very much from the beginning of that company, scaling it up, opening it up in lots of locations, hiring lots of staff, growing the company, which was amazing and exciting to watch it, globally expand. But then around that time, having worked there for a few years, I got offered the job at DAACI. So I found myself then coming back into the music industry, and it feels like a full circle. And you know what? I couldn't do the job I do now without all the experiences that I've done. Working as an elf in a Santa's grotto for 10 years on the trot, Johnny, will teach you things about yourself and the world that only that place can teach you. But I think that's what I said, when we work with a lot of students at DAACI and lots of universities and organisations. And I said to them, there's not one particular pathway, and you might find yourself going off and doing lots of different things and then coming back round to music. But all of these experiences are rich, and they'll only serve to help you in the future and make you a more rounded person, I think. So, yes. Yeah, I used to feel embarrassed by how many different careers I had, and now I love it. I think, brilliant, bring it on, keep learning.
Yeah, that is thank you so much, because that is so inspirational. I mean, so that, you obviously, as I already knew before talking to you today, you're brilliant at what you do, right? And
Thank you, Johnny.
No wonder, because you've come at it from like a multi-dimensional kind of headspace of understanding various aspects of life and of creativity and its impact on people. I mean, wow. That's really, really interesting. Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's been a long journey.
Yeah.
Many
Wow.
experiences.
Well, let's explore a little bit more about the role or how the role of AI can assist the music making process for composers. What role can generative play in that music making for a composer? We looked at this a little bit earlier, but when it comes to the business side of things, right? So let's say, for example, let's say you and I sit together and we write a song, right? And we go, right, Annemarie, we've got this song together. Brilliant. Let's cut it down the middle, 50-50, 50's mine, 50's yours. And we go ahead and we license it however we want and away we go. So, but what about you if you don't do that and you're on your own and you work with generative, right? That means that song is, it's yours. You don't have to copy in any other co-creators on that, so there's a major advantage point. But there's also the issue of kind of something that came up recently when I was interviewing the CEO of Youth Music was the subject of loneliness, and he was talking about the increase of loneliness, and not as a result of AI or anything like that, but just in the times we're in, right? And there's a balance, I think, isn't there, between, because what you're working with is not there to replace a human. It's there to assist a human. And I think that's a very important message to music creators.
Absolutely. I think, like I said, I think no technology can replace the way in which we get creative as humans. Absolutely. Like I said, it's there to help. Dr. Joe Liske invented DAACI many years ago as a film composer. And this is where the whole ideas behind DAACI came from, were Joe's inventions. And back in those times, he basically, all the jobs would come in at once and he would kind of get stuck sometimes in creativity. And he just wanted to create tools that would just, empower him, but never replace him. Yeah. And that's 30 plus years ago. That's exactly what we're still doing today. I think, why not use a tool that can speed things up? Why not use a tool that can make room then for you to go and do some of the parts that you really enjoy? Why not use a tool that can even get you to collaborate with people in new ways? Why not use those tools? I think it's really exciting. As musicians, we are technologists. We always have had to adapt to new technology. I see AI as just being another new technology that can help us or open up new avenues, new doors, new genres, maybe new genres of music.
Yeah, good point. I think there's another thing as well that it really kind of helps composers to achieve, and that is to focus on the actual compositional bones, because one of the things that maybe sometimes kind of slows down composers to not complete projects is the fact that everything can be done at once on the fly. And I often like to encourage people to say, actually, let's split the process into composition and separate that from sound design and separate that from mixing. And yes, I know we can do all of those things on the fly at the same time. And isn't that wonderful? Well, not always, because it slows people down. So if, for example, using tools that use, generative MIDI and stuff to be able to go, right, let me get my composition there, and let's not think at all about the mix, and let's not think at all about the sound design. And actually, they can be other people that do that once the composition is there in kind of MIDI form. It's there that these tools really kick in and elevate a song to and an arrangement of a song to the next level.
Absolutely. Sometimes I can, for me, the way that I write music, I write my lyrics and I write my melody, and then I write my lyrics. And I've got all, even though I'm a pianist, I still to this day struggle to translate what's in my head outwards. So I can hear it, but I just can't sometimes just get there. And I think some of these tools that are out there, they're just incredible in terms of being able to help you express or maybe get there a little bit quicker in what's going on in your head and how you're feeling about that piece of music. And And I think, yeah, just what you said, also in that compositional process, some of these tools, like we've talked about, kind of take away some of the parts that maybe you don't enjoy or take ages, to then give you a bit of breathing space as a composer to think, right, where does this need to go next? Can I just sit with this for a while and think, right, what do I want to express next, without having to worry about programming hi-hats endlessly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think again, that's where these tools come into their own, and at no part is the human cut out of that. It's just your co-pilot. It's kind of like your session drummer in the room with you, who you're giving the groove to, and they're improvising around your groove, but it's your groove.
That's the thing. Yeah, exactly that. So the ownership and the accountability is still, and always has been, and always will be, with the composer.
As it should be, yeah.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. Okay, it's good, because I think sometimes this whole subject can be, and by that I'm talking about the role of AI in music creation. It can be wildly misunderstood. To a point where it kind of grabs clickbaity kind of headlines on the internet and social media memes, and people that kind of perhaps maybe get overly offended by its invention. And it could be argued that in many ways, actually, the idea of probability and MIDI and the randomizers, and there's nothing new about that. That's been around for a while, but how it's used inside of people's cognition and inside their workflow has changed. But it can kind of grab the wrong type of headlines, because it can be kind of mixed in with I don't know, stealing someone's voice or something like that, which kind of gets thrown under the AI bus somehow. And it's not the same thing at all as to what we're talking about here, because what you're doing is ethically sourced. It came out of a university research project, didn't it?
It was Dr. Joe Lisk. Yeah, all of this
Right.
was his brainchild, and it's 30 plus years of research, 79 patents later. And he's a film composer. That's his background. The whole invention has composers at its heart and artists at its heart. But you're right. I think AI is such a broad term as well. It's deeply misunderstood. I mean, some of the big tech firms who are there creating some of this tech, and I'm not talking in the music industry, but in other, some of these platforms that are out there, they don't understand it fully either. It's fascinating in terms of where it's going to go. It can be deeply scary. It can be deeply exciting for some. I think when it applies to music, I think it does, it kind of all gets sort of lumped together in terms of some of the scary stuff that is going on in terms of AI and music. And there are scaries out there, like we talked about, the companies that are training illegally on people's life's work, without permission, no compensation. Artists are there and competing with the output, which sounds very much like them, Yeah. And we've all had to go on those sort of tools. I'm not going to name names, but I would say, gimmicky, maybe, all right, the first time you use it, but it's not how you make music. It's not music making. I think those companies, absolutely, we need to stay ahead of the landscape. We need to back organizations who absolutely want to protect artists. Again, I always say to students, understand what's going on, but understand the tools that you're using. Make sure they are ethical. Make sure, none of your data is getting scraped. Know what you're using. And if it's a good tool, it's ethical, and it's, speeding up parts of the process for you that you want it to, brilliant. But understand what's going on and stay ahead of the curve in all of this. I think there's a bit of I think this is what excites me about the work we do at DAACI is, on one side you have artists and composers who they want and they should get paid if they opt into any of these systems. And then on the other side, you've got people who perhaps are non-musicians who are using some of these other tools out there that are training illegally to maybe make a couple of tracks for their kid's birthday party. And there's sort of a big gap of nothing bridging the gap. Again, because of the way that we've taught, because I'll start again, because of the way that we have taught a system And because we can trace from input to output, it kind of connects the dots in terms of rights holders get paid and compensated, and people are able to, make brand new music that is their own. But everybody in the process, there's fair attribution, and you get to create your own track as opposed to making a track that feels unethical because that it's been, somebody's work is getting scraped. Hope that made sense. But anyhow, I think the point is, I think everything gets lumped into one big AI pool. But of course, there's lots of different things going on within the AI space. So I said to students and all alike, just stay ahead of the curve, understand what's going on as much as you can, listen to podcasts such as this, Johnny, and other podcasts that kind of teach you about this stuff. Even some of the podcasts that are out there are very technical, and they're not about AI and music, they're just about AI. And, I'm certainly not a software engineer. Some of that's gone way above my head, but I listen to some of them anyhow because I think it's really important to keep up to speed on AI and all things AI in any industry. Your chat GPTs and your Claudes, and I think those sort of everybody's using these tools now.
Yeah.
And I think if you know how to use these platforms well, again, it can just help you.
Yeah, and there is a way, right, of using things like chat GPT, for example. You can't there's a respect that like when a human talks to a human, and we have hopefully good manners, and you don't need to do that with AI, which I find really difficult, by the way, because I put please in my questions and things.
Well, there's all those memes on the internet of, this is what happens, if I didn't say thank you and please to chat GPT, and, when AI takes over the world, I'll be the first to go. I mean, come on, it is ridiculous. But I know what you mean, because we have a human way of interacting, for sure. And I think some of the sort of the prompt engineers and some of those big tech firms that, they spend all day talking with the AI, and training it on the way a human speaks or the mannerisms that we have. And it's certainly in the advancement in that sort of technology is astounding in the last few years. It truly is. You think about ChatGPT up until a few years ago, what was it? And suddenly now everybody's using ChatGPT or Claude or one of the other platforms.
Yeah,
it's everywhere.
Yeah. It really is, and it's in things that you would even least expect it to be. It's now recognised as a form of Harvard referencing for essays, for example. Where but the prompt is what you would reference inside of an essay,
right?
Which it's wow, imagine that a few years ago.
I know, you never could have imagined.
No,
back when I was a child, it was like the good old Amstrad. That was
right.
Cool, was it? And the dial-up connection for the internet,
God,
and you couldn't use the house line phone and the internet at the same time.
No.
So my mom would have to kick me off the computer because she wanted to make a phone call. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's. In some ways, it wasn't that long ago, was it? If there's anybody listening to this right now, by the way, that thinks, "What's dial-up?" Don't worry, guys. You're not missing anything. Isn't that right, Annemarie?
Absolutely not. Thank goodness those days are gone.
It was weird. It came with a weird noise.
Yeah.
It was like a Spectrum tape cassette loading up. It was that kind of sound. Beep 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 beep. It was awful. So things have moved on. That's for sure.
Have, in a good
Speaking
way.
of which, and is there anything that as a final question to you, really, is really about kind of what changes you think might be ahead of us in this area of music?
I think, like I said, done in the right way, I think it could be incredibly exciting for our industry. And I think, it can offer powerful assistive tools for the music making journey. But also when it comes to things like music education, embracing some of this new technology will, I think, help how we learn music, how we engage with music, perhaps give people access to music who normally wouldn't have. Schools in particular, I mean, there's a lot of schools who are just so underfunded and perhaps can't afford fancy setups, but having things, for example, like this app or other tools that are out there in the palm of your hand on a device to get people going. It doesn't replace music theory or learn an instrument. Absolutely not. All of those things are still important, but just giving tools that are giving people an opportunity, a chance to get creative, even if they don't go on to be a musician. It's, the impact on cognitive function and being creative, as we know, has such a huge impact. And I think we need to I know certainly this year, I think the government are going to be looking at the creative arts in general across education, and hopefully there's a bit more funding pushed towards all of the creative arts, because it's so important. Creativity is so important on brain functioning. So I think these tools maybe more affordable, and will give people more access as well. And then, of course, collaboration, like we talked about, the opportunity to collaborate with people from across the world. Again, what new genres might come up out of that, what new types of music, that to me is really exciting. But also things like discovery and audience building for, independent artists, helping them to market as well, their brand, tools to understand their audience better. I think there's so many exciting things that these tools can do for this industry.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, that's something which I think a lot of emerging artists really struggle with. Like, who is my audience? Like, I can look at my streaming data and try and get an understanding of that. But like, if AI could be used on a predictive level, and we know it can for various other things, so if that could be used, yeah, that's an interesting one. Okay, watch this space.
Watch this space.
Yeah. Wow. Anne-Marie, thank you so much. You are such a brilliant lady, and
thank you, Johnny.
And you're so good at what you do, and I really appreciate your time here today. You've given a lot of insight and a lot of use, and I think there'll be a lot of people very grateful. So on behalf of the silent majority, thank you.
You're very welcome. It was so lovely to be on today, Johnny. Thank you so much.
Brilliant lady, brilliant company. Really enjoyed that conversation. It's so interesting, isn't it, to kind of, hear different perspectives on this subject, because I think AI in general gets kind of a lot of bad press, and rightly so for in some cases, but most definitely not in this case. Everything about DAACI is pure, and it comes from a long line of research that has a great deal of integrity. I know AI feels like a hot right now kind of subject, and it will cool down and people will stop talking about it, and it will become integrated into our new ways and all the rest of it. But DAACI comes from 30 years of research, long before people were even talking in the mainstream agenda about AI. Fascinating. The app, by the way, the Whistle app, I tested it out because I wanted to be organised, right, and see what was going on with it, and it's brilliant. I think Anne-Marie said that a lot of the DAACI brain has been kind of inputted into it, and that's a great way of putting it, because I tested it out and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. It's still in kind of beta testing. It's the one that Anne-Marie alluded to in the interview. In fact, I'm going to put a link to it in the description for this episode. So if you want to test it out and offer some feedback on it, I think it would be greatly appreciated from DAACI. So there you go. Thank you for being here. I hope you've learned a thing or two there from listening to Anne-Marie and her wonderful insight into where this subject sits. Okay, I will wish you well. Have a great day. Until next time, may the force be with you.
The music business.